Welcome to Tangible Talks podcast. Today we continue our biblical character series with part 2 of Moses. In our last episode, we were introduced to Moses at birth up until the point where he runs away from Egypt to the desert.
In last episode, we learned about the conditions at the birth and early years of Moses. We mentioned that Moses had a heart for justice in his response to the beating of a Hebrew slave and the confrontation of fighting among two Hebrews.
Today we will follow Moses on his journey out of Egypt and his encounter with God on a mountain. Join us as we continue our biblical character series and discuss part 2 of Moses on Tangible Talks podcast.
Hi, Jana.
Hey, Reata. Hey, listeners. Hope you're having a wonderful week. We are continuing our discussion in Nashville, so we're still together.
Unexpected, but still together. Unexpected in that I didn't think I would be here.
I didn't think you'd be here either.
But I'm glad that it worked out that way.
Me too.
You know, something you said in the introduction about Moses on a mountain, an encounter with God on a mountaintop. I remember when I was maybe 8 or 9 in vacation Bible school. And I had a teacher, her name was Miss Pearl. Because at that point, you know, still the Deep South, you would call the person Miss and whatever their first name was. And we were studying Moses. And she read the scripture that Moses climbed up on the mountain and spoke to God face to face. And I just remember something went off inside of me and I said, well, if Moses can do it, I can do it too. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to climb a mountaintop. I'm going to talk to God. That's going to happen. I'm excited about that. And it was just one of those things that kids do, and you just go, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I love it. Today we're going to talk about Moses in Midian. He's married, has 2 sons. He's a shepherd in the desert, and he's almost 80. Wow. Almost 80. And in Exodus chapter 3, verse 3, Moses said, I must turn aside to look at this marvelous sight. Why does the bush burn up? Why is it on fire?
And I think this is maybe been a difficult scripture for me throughout time. And I think maybe some other people might feel the same way, where, well, you know, God spoke to Moses through a burning bush. That was hard to miss. You know, why doesn't he speak to me that way? Why don't we hear things like that anymore? And I think that the true answer is that he still speaks to us in all kinds of different ways, but maybe we just aren't always listening. We're very distracted. It's hard for him to get to us. I don't know.
In the desert, if there were storms, and especially on a mountaintop, it probably would not be uncommon for lightning to strike and set some stuff on fire. But this was abnormal because it was on fire, but it wasn't consumed and it didn't spread. That caught Moses' eye.
Attention.
It got his attention. And God knew how to get his attention. I mean, if he wanted to talk to him when he just didn't have, you know, a bush right there by his foot. It was on a mountain. He got his attention. He didn't speak to him until Moses turned aside and said, I've got to see what this is. You know, really, until we go, I think I really need to find out who this Jesus is. You know, I think I probably should understand what the Bible says and means by this. You hear it of it's normal, you're going along, just like you're in the desert, things happen, but what catches your attention? And it says, Moses chose to look carefully and see, no, this is just commentary. Moses chose to look carefully and see a miracle in that burning bush. If we look carefully, we too will see a miracle in everything.
Mm.
And I know that I recognize the voice of God, or I can see where, well, that was God, because I'm kind of learning to pay attention to it.
We said the fingerprints. You
The
can look back and see
fingerprints.
fingerprints.
Have you heard someone speak and then you just sit up and you go, what? What was that? Well, because your ears, you have different ears. You have different eyes. And Scripture says, Jesus said, if you have eyes to see, if you have ears to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at first I was like, what does he mean? We all have eyes. We all have ears. But there's a difference. Are you going to turn aside and see the miracle in it? And Moses turns aside. And it's almost like you can hear God say, gotcha. I gotcha. God waits to call out to Moses until Moses first notices God. Because God always notices us.
Mm-hmm.
But do we notice God? And Moses noticed him. And that was a choice that Moses made. And that's a choice that we all make. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, here I am.
Which that's the same as Abraham, right?
It's the exact same thing Abraham said in Genesis 22:1, that Isaac said in Genesis 31:11, and Jacob said, and it may have been Jacob that said it in 31 and 46, God spoke to them, here I am. And I think Abraham spoke to God a couple of times, but there was only one or two times when God called his name twice. And his reply was, here I am.
Mm.
It's a recognition. I hear you. I'm right here. And Moses did the exact same thing. Yeah, it's an echo of the call of Abraham. Just before he commands him to bind up Isaac. Moses answers the exact same words. Pretty interesting. And he said, God says, do not come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you stand is holy ground. Verse 6, I am, he said, the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So God introduces himself. Take the sandals off. I think everybody knows that. I still haven't wrapped my head around that. Because, God has, the whole world is God's. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord continued, I have marked well the plight of my people in Egypt. So God explains who he is, and he goes right in to what is on his mind. And the reason that he's talking to Moses, he didn't say, hey, what you think about my mountaintop resort? Do you see the view?
A couple things that jump out to me is Moses is obviously familiar with this God. You know, like he had to know what that meant, which is interesting, I think. And then also he was afraid to look at him.
Mm.
And that's interesting too.
It's interesting.
Like I wonder.
I think that when we get in the presence of God, that we just tremble and we see his purity, which also gets us to see our shortcomings where we are. That's just a guess. I don't know. But God said, I have marked well the plight of my people in Egypt. God refers to the Israelites as his people.
Yeah, my version says, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. It's not quite as
God chose Abraham, and he started to create his own nation. And that's the repercussion of Babel. After the Tower of Babel, and God created different languages and dispersed the people, there were other gods over those nations because they didn't want to deal with God anymore. We don't want to talk to you. So God put others in control of those. And then they even rebelled against God. So God said, fine, I'll just start my own nation. So God is very aware of what's going on with his people and have heeded their outcry because of their taskmasters. Yes, I am mindful of their suffering. I have come down to rescue them from the Egyptians and to bring them out of that land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And I'm sure if I was Moses, I would go, so what does that have to do with me? Hey, if you're asking me, I think it's a really good plan.
Yeah.
Go on down there, do what you said.
I love it. I don't like the way they're being treated. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and then we go into where he's going to bring them into the region of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But that's going to be our land. Those people.
And that's pretty detailed.
Yeah, it is a pretty detailed plan.
Yeah, that's more detailed than a lot of other plans.
Yeah. Oh, this plan is, this would be, corporations would just die for this, for a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is this, and then we're going to go into here, and we're going to do this. It's going to be really good. It's going to flow with milk and honey. You can't have milk without cattle and sheep and goats and all the other stuff. It's going to be good. And maybe at some time, we'll get into why the ites is what I call them. They are dispossessed, but it's because their worship and the things that they did were so evil. Mm. And their time is coming. Their time of having that is coming to an end. Because what is the scripture that says, God is not mocked? Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man sows, that shall he reap. Mm-hmm. And we're about to see that the Egyptians are going to reap what they sowed in enslaving these people, killing these children. That's what they sowed.
And God's about to get straight to the point for why he's talking to Moses and how Moses fits into this.
Exactly. And see, you'll say, well, I wish God would speak to me.
Do you?
Do you really? Because let's look at the times that God was very clear in speaking to people. He wasn't sending them where they wanted to go.
He wasn't sending you to Kauai.
No.
Enjoy your vacation.
No. Now the cry of the Israelites has reached me. Moreover, I have seen how the Egyptians oppressed them. Now that's almost a repeat of verse 7.
Very simple. At first I thought you were reading because ours are slightly different. I thought I had lost your place.
No. God has said it twice. Mm-hmm. And he says it for a reason. This is important. They should not have done this. Come therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt. Pretty much going okay.
I think it's interesting how he says my. He keeps saying my. He didn't say your.
No.
He didn't say our. He said my.
My people. Because that's how he looks at us as his. Mm-hmm. This is God, the creator of all things. Why does he need Moses? Well, God doesn't really need anything, but he desires a relationship. He desires to work in community with us. Mm-hmm. And he put us in dominion of this place. And he said, go subdue it, be fruitful, multiply. And he hasn't really changed his mind that much. He hasn't come up with a plan B. This is a system in which God is going to work. This is how he works. This is how he will work with Joshua. This is how he will work with David and throughout mankind.
Yeah.
But
In partnership
in partnership
us.
with us.
and others.
And it's easy. I think it's easier to do partnership if you're partnered. If you're partnered with someone that you've got some things in common, and the things that you're different on is like with you, where you're really strong. I'm not that strong in those areas, but we have a lot of similarities and interests that we connect with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was thinking about that, and then like in marriage with Jordan, I mean, he helps me in so many ways that we can go further
Yes.
together easier.
As long as we don't focus on where we're different.
Yeah.
And we're not jealous. But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and free the Israelites from Egypt?" He had to have been shocked. And I think that's a really good question that Moses asked.
And I think we also have to kind of remember how his relationship with Pharaoh now. Because of things that transpired, he is actually pretty close to Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I mean, I don't know that he looked at him like a grandson. We don't really have a lot of background on that whole situation at all.
And Moses doesn't know much of the situation. He's been in Midian for almost 40 years.
That's true. That's a really good point.
So he doesn't know, am I still a woman man back there?
Right.
I don't think it's a good idea for me to go back there.
That's a really good point to bring up. Yes.
He doesn't know a lot about what's going on right now.
No.
I mean, I probably would have said,
But yeah, he fled 40 years
yes,
ago.
40 years ago.
Because he
His
was-
family's here. His children are here. They know nothing about his life before. Chances are they knew very little about his life.
Yeah.
And what does God say in response? "I will be with you." God is telling Moses, it doesn't matter what your qualifications are. That doesn't matter at all. You're not chosen for your qualifications.
Right.
You will succeed because I am with you.
And I think that that's something that we all have to truly believe. I think that's an element required for faith, or true faith, and that true relationship with God. You really have to believe that if He is with you, like, it's going to work out.
It's going to work
and
out.
that is really difficult in a lot of situations.
But we want to
do
do our qualification and go, I'm not qualified for that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I know how to do that. I do think that it was a good thing that Moses did know about Egypt, that he did know the background of Pharaoh.
Yeah.
I think
And I don't think that was happenstance,
No,
right?
I don't either. And so God says, "I will be with you. This shall be your sign that it was I who sent you. And when you have freed the people from Egypt, you shall worship God at this mountain. The sign that it's I who sent you is that the people will be free from Egypt and you'll worship God on this mountain." That's a little sketchy in detail. I mean,
Yeah.
we're leaving out a few points here.
How long is that going to
Yeah. Yeah. How is this going to work out? But the Israelites had to be released from serving Pharaoh to serve God. Because you can't have two masters. This is a really good example of why we need to serve Jesus, not this and Jesus.
Yeah.
Or Jesus and this. You can't do it.
Do both.
They had to be freed from Pharaoh.
And we may not have Pharaoh, but in our lives, what is ruling us?
Yeah, what is your
it
God?
Money? Is it your job?
Mm-hmm.
Is it even your family?
Well,
Potentially.
How about indebtedness?
Yeah.
Owing so much that you're in an awful job and you can't leave it. I mean, pretty much you can relate to the Israelites at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Pharaoh is considered a god. He thinks he is. We're going to see how much he thinks he is. And so Moses said to God, when I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me, and they ask, what is his name? What shall I say to them? Well, who is it that sends me? Well, God has already told. God told Moses who he was. I'm the God of your fathers. I think Moses is stonewalling him, but also we have to remember, it's been 40 years since he's heard about this God.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 40 years that he's been here, and I don't know if he's even thought about the Israelites or anything like that. And God says to Moses, this one has the Jewish wording in it. Iyah, Asher, Iyah. He continued, thus shall you say to the Israelites, Iyah sent me to you. God identifies himself with a name having 4 possible meanings. Oh, don't you just love that? I am what I am who I am, I will be what I will be who I will be. Basically, God is identifying himself as he is a being. He was before, he is, he's going to always be. That's where we got who was, who is, and who is to come. God just is. You can't really put him in a box. The essence of God is being.
When you say Yahweh, you breathe in for
Yes.
Yah, and then way you breathe out.
So he's the breath. He is life. Outside of him, nothing is. And I think that's it in its simplest form. And yet, if you think about it, wow, everything that has breath, he gave.
Mm-hmm.
And God said further to Moses, thus shall you speak to the Israelites, the Lord Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This shall be my name forever. This is who he's going to be forever, for eternity. Go and assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord Yahweh. Now see, we have a different, it's not that I am who I am. He is saying the Lord Yahweh, the God Elohim of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me and said, I have taken note of you and of what is being done to you in Egypt. If you'll remember, when Joseph was dying, he gave instructions in Genesis 50:24. And Joseph used the exact same words in his deathbed prophecy. He promises them that God will take note of them and deliver them from Egypt to the promised land. So God, when he says this to them, he uses the exact words that Joseph used. And that should be a trigger. That should let you know. Is that, of all the things he could say, he quoted Joseph, or Joseph quoted God on his deathbed, which was probably the second one. And I have declared, I will take you out of the misery of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to you. Then you shall go with the elders of Israel to the king of Egypt. And you shall say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, manifested himself to us. Now, why does God tell Moses at this point to say the God of the Hebrews and not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And it's because Pharaoh has no idea who Abraham is, but he knows who the Hebrews are. So God is even explaining things in a way that Pharaoh should understand.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's also saying sort of some separation here too.
Yes.
These are my people.
They're my people. I'm their God, the God of the Hebrews. He says, go with the elders to the king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, manifested himself to us, and now therefore let us go a distance of 3 days into the wilderness to sacrifice to the Lord our God. Yet I know that the king of Egypt will let you go only because of a greater might. I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with various wonders, which I will work upon them. After that, he shall let you go. Well, that's a really good way to sum up the 10 plagues. But the first thing he says is let them go 3 days. Now, if you go out 3 days and you sacrifice a day, and then you come back 3 days, that's a week. So they're going to be gone a week. Mm-hmm. Which, of course, that's perfect. 7 days sabbatical. God does all that stuff. God has no intentions of them going for only 7 days and coming back. But look at what he's saying. Tell Pharaoh to do this because you can't start off with a huge concept. I mean, if you go into a house and you go buy a house, you look at it and you go, yeah, this could be it. You don't go in and say, we'll do this and then this we'll do here and then we'll move this in here and we're going to order this from this place and then we're going to replace all of this. It's too overwhelming. You will eventually get there. And so God's given Pharaoh something he can digest. The simplest things, yet he already knows. Mm-hmm. So this is interesting because does this mean Pharaoh doesn't have a free will?
Yeah.
And you can fight that, and I think that this is where we really need to ponder, meditate on these things.
Yeah, it's a hard concept that I very much struggle with.
God is outside of time. We live in time. He is outside of time. He already knows what's going to happen. That doesn't mean it's predetermined. Yeah. And that doesn't mean it takes away your free will. But God already knows how this is going to be. He even told Abraham,
right,
I'm going to deliver your people and they're going to come out with great wealth. We already know they're going to plunder the Egyptians. Because again, it was told to us. It was told to Abraham. We knew this in Genesis 15. And this is how God is working it out. And I think this is just a really good example of how when God calls you, he gives you a master plan, but it lacks a lot of detail. Yeah. Because some of this is dependent upon other people who have free will that may block you to get out of the way, and God's given them time to do that. Mm. And we cannot understand all of that. He gave Pharaoh a chance. At the beginning, he could have just done that, but he didn't. But that's not going to keep God from having what he ultimately plans. Is that
yeah,
good?
I think you explained it really well. I like how you said God lives outside of time.
Yes.
I've never thought about that before.
Time does not contain him.
But that makes sense.
Yeah, and time didn't come about until the creation. Mm. When you had the lights and it was evening and morning was the first day, is that not the beginning of time? Mm-hmm. That's why I've always thought, how can we date things that existed before time existed? You know?
Right.
That's probably not a good way to say it, but I can compute that in my brain because God is outside of time. And we're going back there because at the end of time, we even say that Jesus will come back. It'll be the end of time. Mm-hmm. It is the end of time governing us, having us more or less as a slave, whatever it is, but that's the end of time. And I will depose the Egyptians favorably toward this people so that when you go, you will not go away empty-handed. Now, I think that this is really worth mentioning, and you may even want to stop the podcast and think about this. God is already providing materially for the people. When they leave, He already has a plan for provisions. They will have gold and silver. He's actually giving them their payday for all the years that they worked and were not paid. We would say you get paid back. It's redemption. God keeps score. Not the way that we keep score. But He's like, okay, and so when you go, I'm going to give you favor with the Egyptians, and they're going to give you wealth. He even told Abraham back in 15, and you believe you will have wealth. God had already planned this. So if you are doubting whether God can provide for you, you should dwell on this one for a while.
Yeah.
Moses is still on the mountain. This is his first encounter with God, and God's already talking about how I'm going to give you favor. You're going to have this when you go. You're going to have that. Got everything you need. Didn't tell him about the 10 plagues in details.
No, he left out the locust.
Yeah. Each woman shall borrow. I think it's interesting that the word borrow here, but actually the word borrow means ask. Each woman shall ask from her neighbor and the lodger in her house objects of silver and gold and clothing, and you shall put these on your sons and daughters, thus stripping the Egyptians. They were to ask the Egyptians, they weren't to take. And there's a note in here that says, even victims must act ethically. Even though they had been wronged by the Egyptians, and God knew that, and He's delivering them from the Egyptians because they did not. They acted evilly in evil. That does not give the Hebrews the right to steal. Although they were never going to give it back.
Right.
They had to act morally, ethically. And so God is saying, so I want them to ask. They're going to give it to you. Your kids are going to be laden down with this stuff, with gold and silver and the wealth of Egypt.
Yeah, that's such a hard, I will give you favor. You will have favor so that they will give you these things. It's a hard concept to wrap your mind around.
It is a hard concept.
Why?
And that's why we see it played out.
Yeah.
We hear God telling Moses this. Now we're studying Moses. We're looking at the life of Moses. But in this, what really makes Moses is the God that he encounters on the mountaintop in Egypt and in the desert. And finally again on the mountaintop. And I'm looking through this as we talk through this again. I've read through some of this. I haven't found anywhere in here where God promised Moses that Moses would go in the promised land. He says, you'll come to this mountain and worship me. And then you will go in with the people. God's been really good about giving details. But I do not see at this point where God tells Moses he's going into the promised land.
No.
And I don't think that was ever in the plan. I don't think it ever was. I think that he was to get them to the edge, and that was his purpose, and that was the plan, and that's what he would do so well. Now, that's just me. But Joshua was going to take over. And then from Joshua, we have the others. And so, as I'm rereading this again, I'm looking for at what point did he tell Moses that he was going in? He just told him, you will not go in, but I'm going to let you see the land. Which always breaks my heart. And I thought, well, he did one thing, but that, I don't think it was ever the plan. I'm not seeing it when God's laying out this plan.
Yeah, I've never thought about it.
But Moses spoke up and said, "What if they do not believe me and do not listen to me, but say the Lord did not appear to you?" The Lord said to him, one of my favorite verses. What is in your hand? What is in your hand?
Yeah, still one of my favorite conversations to date. That's one of our first podcasts that we ever did. I think it's titled "What's in Your Hand."
Yeah, I think it was on the change.
Yeah, very first series we ever made.
Yeah. And what's in your hand? Again, it has something to do with Moses. But it's everything about God, and He's going to give you the provision. So what's in your hand? What has He already given you? Because if He calls you to do a task, and He doesn't give you the equipment to do it and the ability to do it, it's a completely unfair task. It's not justice. And God is not that kind of a God.
It really kind of makes me think about the verses about the lilies and the ravens, and if I provide for them. I mean, it is a simple thing, right? Mm-hmm. They manage to make it. God provides for them. They have nothing. Why do we worry so much?
Why do we worry? Well, that's a good one. And when you study like this, you go, why do people worry? And then, in about 3 hours from now, I'm going to be worried about something.
It may be something. What am I going to eat? My pantry's full of food, Like, why do I worry?
I don't know what I'm going to wear. Yes, okay. What is in your hand? And Moses replied, a rod. And then God said, cast it to the ground. He cast it on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses recoiled from it. So it wasn't a fake snake. It wasn't a rubber snake. It wasn't a trick rod. Then the Lord said to Moses, put out your hand and grasp it by the tail. He put out his hand and seized it, and it became a rod in his hand. Now, when you grab a snake, I think you're supposed to grab it by the head and not the tail. Not that I'm going around.
I'm not doing either.
Not that I need to try and see which one works the best.
But yeah, you don't want it to bite you. You grab the tail, it can turn around and bite you.
That they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, did appear to you. The Lord said to him further, put your hand into your bosom. He put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, his hand was encrusted with snowy scales, is what this translation says. And if they are not convinced by both these signs and still do not heed you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you take from the Nile will turn to blood on dry ground. Okay, we're getting into a little more detail now. But Moses said to the Lord, please, O Lord, I have never been a man of words, either in times past or now, that you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And the Lord said to him, who gives man speech? Who makes him dumb or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with you as you speak, and will instruct you what to say. But he said, please, O Lord, make someone else your agent.
And mine says, please send someone else. I feel that so much.
Moses is the ideal leader because he doesn't want the job. That's what totally qualifies him.
But I just can think of, and I know you've had these moments, where you need to do something, and you just don't want to. And I just want to curl up in my bed and please make somebody else fix this mess.
Oh, I've even been bolder and said, I'm not doing it. The Lord became angry with Moses, and he said, there's your brother Aaron the Levite. He, I know, speaks readily. Even now he is setting out to meet you, and he will be happy to see you. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I will be with you and with him as you speak, and tell both of you what to do. And he shall speak for you to the people. Thus he shall serve as your spokesman, with you playing the role of God to him. And take with you this rod with which you shall perform the signs. And Moses went back to his father-in-law Jethro and said to him, let me go back to my kinsmen in Egypt and see how they are faring. And that's a call of Moses. And I used to judge Moses harshly. Why are you making mistakes? Man, the bush is on fire. You're on holy ground. It's talking to you. What you waiting on?
It's rarely easy to do the things we're called to do, right?
Yes.
Because we have to rely on that faith.
Because we have to rely on God. It has to be God to send us, and if we're completely competent in it. I mean, look at us when we were doing the podcast. We really didn't know what we were doing. Not that we know a whole lot right now. But we had to, we had to take steps. And so, of course, Jethro says to Moses, go in peace. And so Moses is going to leave Midian. There's a couple other things in here that's kind of crazy about an angel going to strike him down and all that stuff. We have to remember Moses is 80. He's pretty close to 80. He's going back to a place. He doesn't know who's in charge. He doesn't. He's got a plan, but how will that plan work out? We also have to remember that Moses' wife had never left her home. She didn't know anything about Egypt.
Yeah.
And his sons are at least 30.
So Moses took his wife and sons and put them on a donkey.
Yeah.
And started back to Egypt.
That's just one little verse. Doesn't that sound really nice? So how was that when you guys left Connecticut to go to Nashville?
Oh, it was a whirlwind because it was such a short turnaround.
Uh-huh. Where are we gonna go? Wait, how long? And there's a lot of stuff to that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot going on in this verse. Now, I have to tell you, Moses comes home and says, we're going to do this. I'm like, what? Are you sure? Because she had to be between 60 and 70 years old, if not close to Moses' age. If you think you have difficulty changing and moving on when you're in your 30s, this woman was, I'm just going to round off and say she was 70. She was leaving the only home she knew. And I don't see that he tells her very much about what's going to happen.
Because of what he heard from a burning bush.
Because, oh yeah, that's going to go over really good. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's going to go over really good. The Lord said to Aaron, go meet Moses in the wilderness. He went and met him at the mountain of God, and he kissed him.
So, did we miss anything about where Aaron's been? Has he been in Egypt? Did he go with Moses when he fled Egypt? Do we know?
But I think because of his position with the elders and because of knowing, he had to assemble the elders of Israel. I think he was in Egypt.
Yeah.
I think that he was among the people.
And that God sent him.
And that's
why he knew he was, God knows all, but he said he was on his way to meet him.
Yes.
Okay.
Moses told Aaron about all the things that God had committed to him and all the signs about which he instructed him. Now, notice Moses tells Aaron all this stuff. He didn't tell his wife. He didn't tell his father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
But Aaron would know. Aaron's already expecting a deliverer. He's a Hebrew.
Right.
He already knows his brother and the whole story of that.
Mm-hmm.
There would have been such a backstory and no way for the others to comprehend it.
Right.
You and I can talk about stuff that I won't talk to other people about because we just have a history and we just know there's some common things that we have. And I think that's how it was with Aaron. And so Moses is reunited with his brother. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all the elders of Israel. They needed the elders behind them. And the elders would have been the spokesperson for each tribe. And they would talk and they would hash things out, and then they would go back and tell all the people in their tribe. Aaron repeated all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses, and he performed the signs in the sight of the people. So in front of the Hebrews, Moses turned his rod to a snake. He put his hand inside his shirt. Now, I don't know if he took water and turned it to blood in front of him, but those were the signs that he said to do. And the people were convinced. When they heard that the Lord had taken note, again, that's exactly what Joseph said, that God will take note of you. I kind of like that. Taken note of the Israelites, and that he had seen their plight, they bowed down low in homage. So far the elders seem to be on board. Aaron's there, and Moses is back in Egypt. So now we're going to have, I don't know that I want to break each plague down because we're talking about Moses. I want to talk about what Moses learns and how he grows, and how this is a huge turning point, because the Moses that comes in, that kind of slides into Egypt here undetected, is not the same Moses that goes out. This was a lot of explanation, but I just think that we can gather so much from this to help us in our lives. How God dealt with Moses. He was very patient with him.
I just think getting to see how God works is really insightful, because it gives us insight into how he operates and how he works with us, and how he does work with us even when we don't believe in ourselves, how he's still with us anyway. He does, and I think that that's very meaningful.
The importance of that, I am with you. The importance of that.
Yeah.
And
how it should give us a lot of comfort. And when we doubt ourselves, and when we really struggle with situations that we encounter, we need to remember that we're not alone.
And isn't that what Jesus said at the end of Mark? Behold, I am with you. In this world you will have trouble. But be of good cheer, because I've overcome the world. And behold, I am with you always. I don't know if that's in that verse, but I am with you always. It's the exact same thing God says here to Moses, that he says to the people, I'm going to go down and I will be with you. So I'm going to close in prayer. All right. Lord, thank you again for your goodness. Thank you again that you are with us. Thank you that you are patient, and that you lead us, and that you have a plan. But I also thank you for the times that you just don't let us get away, that you remind us that you are with us and you want this done. We can do this. Thank you for those that listen. May you be with them. May this study bring them great comfort. And in the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Once again, guys, we thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We hope you're enjoying this series on Moses. I know I'm getting a lot out of it. And we really do hope that it is inspiring you. As we're studying these biblical characters, it's so transformational to see what they struggle with and how they work with God, and to know that they are not perfect, just as we are not perfect. And God works with them anyway, and that he is with us. And I hope you find that as reassuring as I do. Well, we hope to meet you back here next week as we continue Moses. This might end up being a 4-parter.
Yes.
It's either 3 or 4, we're not sure yet. So we'll see how it goes. Until then, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And catch you next time. Bye.